Okay, you all set?
Okay, let's stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yeah, the village of New Paltz humbly acknowledges that we are on the traditional land of the Munsee, Esopus, and Lenape people. The Indian Removal Act of 1830 forced the people to relocate to the inhospitable territory far from the beautiful valley and mountains we inhabit today. The village further acknowledges that much of the physical structure of our village and town was built by enslaved Africans who labored their owners until 1827 on this very land. We acknowledge and honor the contributions, resilience, and accomplishments of the BIPOC community, that's Black, Indigenous, and people of color, who have overcome historic injustice to inform our past and inspire our future. The Village of New Paltz encourages everyone to learn more about the contributions and sacrifices made by the Indigenous people and enslaved Africans by visiting the websites that we have shared on all of our agendas and minutes and on our website. And if there's anything you think we should add, please let us know.
Okay, amendments to this agenda that I wanted to make. Nothing to change within the consent agenda. And for item number 1, I just added 1C, proposal to amend the easement. We're waiting for the updated map from the Local Valley Land Trust. Item number 2 is the resolution regarding annexation findings for the proposed New Paltz Apartments project. Item number 3 is an update to the board from the grant regarding building department files. Item number 4 is a proposal we received from a consultant to perform a speed study in the village. And item number 12 is an announcement about the upcoming IDA public hearing. And under the planning board liaison update, we're also going to hear about the proposed guidelines for public comment at planning board meetings. And then item number 15 has to do with amending a 1963 covenant so it conforms with our current R3 zoning. I'd like to move the consent agenda and move the business agenda as amended.
Second.
Okay. First announcement. What?
Who seconded the lead?
Oh, all in favor?
Aye.
First announcement I wanted to make is every year the Nyquist Foundation awards grants to local nonprofit organizations in 3 towns that are in Montana, and then also the village of well, actually the town of New Paltz. And the application deadline is November 1st. I met with Lynn Nyquist this week and we were chatting about this grant opportunity for nonprofits, and they generally look for applications seeking funding between $500 and $2,000. I think it's super interesting that, and I didn't know this about this grant opportunity, that they have focused on 3 towns in Montana plus the village of New Paltz, because the Nyquist family property was in Montana. So they kind of like look at applications across, these total of 4 different towns. So we're just encouraging nonprofits to go ahead and use this link if they're interested in applying for money to support various capital investments that their nonprofits might be interested in. So I shared that with New Paltz Rescue. I shared it with a class at the New Paltz High School, and also our local beautification community improvement team regarding brackets on Main Street. So hopefully, in addition to whoever applies normally, and we'll have some other organizations apply for funding, and hopefully they're successful. Any other announcements from village board colleagues?
I would just augment that a little bit by saying, getting these small grants is a niche sort of grant making opportunity where it's often difficult to get that few $100s that you need, or a couple $1,000s that you need. So it's a really terrific thing, because typically you can't apply for that little amount of money. So and unite with somebody.
And as always, I'm gonna remind everybody that if you are in a position to help your neighbors, family of New Paltz does a wonderful job, and they're always in need, in particular, of feminine hygiene products and other personal care items, and toothbrushes, toothpaste, deodorant, all that kind of stuff. As well as food and other things, and in particular, any, monetary donations are greatly needed. I'm also gonna remind everybody that the food bridge is here at 25 Platte Avenue, it's open 24/7. Please donate when you can and be generous. Make sure that you read all of the rules. You can check out millionsofbutterflies.org to see all of that, or the New Paltz Free Food Bridge page on Facebook. To do that, and if you need anything, please come and get it. And I think that's it for the moment.
Great. Let's move to,
In 1 second, I could handle business agenda item number 3 real quick, because it's really an announcement. That's the update on the.
yeah, do it as an announcement.
Yeah, we applied last fall. They were supposed to announce the beginning or mid-June, the recipients. We just got notice. We did not, we were not awarded the grant. There is a period of time where we can request a debriefing, and I have already done that. So hopefully within the next month, I'll find out where we were lacking in our application. And for the board members who may not be aware, this was a grant to digitize 70 years worth of building department records that are all in paper format. So I thought we had a pretty competitive grant application, but apparently they fund as many as they can with the money they have. I'll leave it at that. There's only one Ulster County recipient, and that's the county itself. So.
Great, so we'll do the debrief and then we'll.
Yeah, and then I'll report back when, and we'll try again next
We'll
year.
reapply.
Yeah,
Perfect.
That's it.
Good stuff. Any public comment in person? Linda's first.
Yeah, that one,
Come on up, just state your name and your affiliation.
You can still,
Or it's in there, whatever.
last name, okay. I'm Linda Wells, and I'm speaking on behalf of myself and also on behalf of the Ulster County, Ulster Activists Do Act. And just wanted to support the resolution, I think it's number 10 on your agenda, regarding fighting to fight back against the authoritarianism of this administration and to bill itself for the good of the constituents, and that the resolution kind of sets a tone for the county, and that's really important. Thank you.
thank you.
Thanks, Linda.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Lee, and I'm a resident of the village of New Paltz, and I'm also a member of Ulster Activists. And I am speaking on behalf of the Ulster Activists to support the resolution number 10, the Big Beautiful Act, which is a all-encompassing measure to cut federal funding to our social and health programs, which would affect seniors, children, and working families. So the resolution actually outlines the impact and consequences of this Big Beautiful Act on our community. But the resolution also includes measures to counteract and mitigate the impact of the Big Beautiful Act. So in closing, I would like the village board to pass the resolution and to send a copy to Congressman Ryan and Senators Schumer and Gillibrand. Thank you for your consideration.
Thanks, Liz. Do we have?
You've got a few people on here tonight, 3 people. So.
Great, I see Lynn. Lynn, are you here to
Yeah,
make a
the
public
other
comment?
2.
You can unmute yourself and.
Oh, thank you. Can I speak now?
Yes,
Sure.
please.
I mean, if you're here for public comment, then yeah.
Thank you. Well, I'm here actually as a resident of the town of New of Esopus, but I just wanted to thank the village trustees for considering this uh, resolution to oppose the everything but beautiful bill,
Thank
uh,
you.
and for really serving as a role model, I hope, for other towns in the county and beyond to really stand up, as a local government standing up against the social injustices and all the other injustices represented in the bill. So thank you just so very much for doing this.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Lynn.
Thanks. Anyone else online interested in making a public comment?
Kitty Brown and Emily Payne are on the line, but they might just be observing.
They can raise their hands if they want to, no?
Okay, then let's move on to, I'm gonna, ask John Gavin to come to the table and we'll speak with him about his interest in serving on the Shade Tree Commission. Grab a seat. Oh, come on up, take a seat. We'll just do this as part of public comment. So tell us a little bit about your interest in serving on the Village Shade Tree Commission.
Well, I've lived in New Paltz my whole life, which is almost 30 years now. And yeah, I've worked as a landscaper, gardener for a number of that time. And I heard there was a vacancy on the commission and I wanted to see if I could help in any way.
Thank you.
Do you have any specific familiarity with the law as it's currently written? And like, do you think there's ways that we could make it a better law?
I'm afraid I'm not really aware of
Okay,
it.
I just was curious if you had any other questions from the village?
None. I just hope that you guys will consider me and that I can be useful.
Okay, any other, do we have any?
I'm grateful for you coming forward, and
Thank you.
I'm assuming that in your landscaping work, you have some expertise to do with trees as well.
Some, yes.
Yeah, so that would be great, so
Yeah.
I appreciate you coming forward.
Hopefully I can keep them alive.
Good stuff. I'd like to move that we appoint John Gavin to the Shade Tree Commission for a term beginning and ending, and I'm gonna ask our Ariana to fill in the blanks.
Second,
All in favor?
thank you so
Thanks.
much.
Thank you.
I'm grateful to have you.
Appreciate it.
Let us know if you have any questions or anything.
It's filling a vacancy?
Yeah.
I can check with them.
Okay, fantastic.
Yeah.
You guys wanna go ahead and move the resolution where we're expressing opposition to the big beautiful bill and do that now?
Yeah.
Okay, since all these people are here for it. I did have a question. I mean, nowhere does it say, therefore be it resolved, it just says resolved. So usually.
Is that just an edit we can?
Yeah, there are some edits like that, but it wasn't written, wasn't quite. The language isn't quite right. Generally, oh, I see, you have it at the line previous, but it's just not part of it, it's supposed to say therefore, be resolved. Yeah. Be it further resolved, it just wasn't put on the same line or something.
That can be fixed.
I'll fix it, yeah.
So just essentially, what this resolution is still in opposition to the beautiful bill. I do want to more sort of localized in some ways, and there are a couple paragraphs here which I think are important to talk about or announce at least. That is, whereas Ulster County Comptroller March Gallagher reports that Ulster County has over 17,000 people, or 10% of county residents on SNAP, and over 48,000 or 27% of our residents on Medicaid. So that's how many people are going to be affected by this bill. That's an outstanding number. And then whereas starting in 2026, veterans receiving SNAP benefits will have to meet strict work requirements. At least 80 hours a month of working, volunteering, participating in job training, or looking for work. They risk losing their assistance. This change ends a longstanding exemption and affects many of the 1.2 million low-income veterans nationwide who rely on food stamps. So I thought that was makes a lot of sense in terms of our own community.
Any other, tweets or comments, I'm very appreciative that we're taking this action, memorializing our objection to the big beautiful bill. I think it's, you know, it feels very un-American. I think, you know, being a person who's proud of this country, taking care of everyone and anyone is our responsibility as elected officials, and I feel like this bill gets that wrong. So,
Completely.
I have a question. You know, all the statistics that, Bill, presented, will that be, that directly impacts our community? Will that be added to the resolution?
It's already in there.
Oh, you did?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
which whereas did you include that just so we could?
It's, 1, 2, 3, 4 paragraph. It begins with, March calendar and then following paragraph.
Yeah, Liz, it's all there, so this edited version, including comments that Stana shared, will be the final version.
Okay.
So,
So we want to vote.
yeah, do you wanna,
I move that, we adopt this resolution.
Second.
all in favor?
Ah,
Thanks, everybody. Next item on the business agenda, Jesse Halliburton is here, wanted to update us on a proposed change regarding the easement that we've extended, to your project. Grab a seat, Jesse. I could share with the board and with the public that I met on site with Jesse a week or two ago, and he showed me exactly what was being proposed. This is probably one of the easier things, but site visits make all the difference in terms of you need to look at a map if you don't really see it until you go there, you know. I think this improvement makes a great deal of sense, and instead of the property connecting directly with the rail trail to the south, the entrance is more in the middle of the hotel's building. And it just feels like it flows more naturally. You'll end up with actually more pervious surface on the site, which is a net
always the
benefit.
best.
But it just felt a lot more natural, and you know, you're also careful to explain how, you know, the gate swings in, and it just makes a lot more sense where, you know, if someone is leaving the hotel to get onto the rail trail, it just seems like a thing where you're like, well, why didn't we do this correctly from the beginning?
Yes, and thank you for the introduction. My name is Jesse Halliburton, one of the owners and developers of the New Paltz Way Hotel located at 11 Water Street. So this change makes the flow of traffic from the hotel where most people come in from the current parking lot where they come and drive in. This is where they enter, and there's the elevator here, and there's a couple of rooms down here. But this is the only real area that they have to kind of congregate. And there's a door that leads directly out to the patio. And the door, what we're proposing is the stairwell be across from the door, which so this, the door would be here and the stairwell would be here. So we have a number of steps leading up to a path, and the path would then follow the railing of the rail trail along to a gate. And that gate would open on this path and then be able to close. And once, so that would give the person the opportunity to walk out onto the rail trail, look both ways. You know, we'll probably post signs at that location to also inform them to look both ways. Because bikers come by and runners too. We don't wanna have a situation there, so. We would like to widen this view so that they can actually see the people are coming through and then. Enter the rail trail that way. As part of what we proposed, it was going, what we proposed before was to add. Fence all the way along the property line, which is not, I'm sorry, not the property line. Continue the rail trail fence all the way to this side of the hotel, to the south side of the hotel. We have a stair here okay, so the difference here is there was a stairwell on our property that somebody could walk up and then onto the trail, which would then give them the opportunity to walk onto the rail trail. What we are now proposing is moving this stair to this location. The difference here is this set of stairs will be on New Paltz property,
On the village's.
on the village's
portion of
property,
the rail.
correct, right?
So can I just provide a little context
Please,
too?
yeah.
So I think what's interesting about why Jesse is here is like ordinarily when he's doing anything related to his site plan, he's talking to the volunteer planning board. So the reason he's here is because we've extended an easement for his property to integrate with the rail trail. So the rail trail is owned by the village. There's a conservation easement administered by the Walker Valley Land Trust. So that's the third party that's involved in any of these conversations. Like we work hand in glove with the land trust to make sure they're okay with, what Jesse has asked us. We're deliberating on whether we're comfortable with what you're asking for us. And, I think the way to frame this so folks understand, like, it's basically a mirrored easement that we have with the developers at the,
So very south side,
the Zero Place building.
okay, yeah,
So I use that as an example because I feel like we worked really hard to make sure that that easement made sense. And it's basically a trade, like we allow you to go directly from the rail trail onto your property in exchange for you maintaining and keeping the portion of the rail trail landscapes.
Yeah.
So it's in your interest for it to look good. It saves us time and energy and that, I don't have public works guys dealing with that. And like, we had also talked about the possibility of you looking to provide some landscaping improvements on the other side of the rail trail, closer to where that bench is, if we wanted to end up with a memorial bench in that area.
we did speak about that, yeah.
So.
Yeah.
So the idea is that the easement is so that there's, a way to make sure that the area, along the rail trail is maintained.
Yes.
There's mutual benefit here, so that's a terrific.
Yes, and one thing, I think what I think Tim was talking about was this, well, you were talking about Zero Place, which makes sense, but we also have provided this, and agreed to, this stairwell that leads from Plains Road to the rail trail for the neighbors in the area that can actually use that without having to go all the way around and then onto the trail, so.
Yeah, I just bring up Zero Place because that was our first experience in terms of like having an easement where we were trying to have an integrated property with the rail trail. And we spent a lot of time trying to make sure that got right. And that's, our initial conversations were all along the lines of like, well, here's the template. And, for all intents and purposes, it's the same.
Yes.
So all we're doing here is just tweaking the fact that, your easement will include putting your own stairwell, the village's portion of the rail trail, so that it integrates more intelligently.
How many steps are there?
It looks like we have a 6 foot, wait, I'm sorry, is that right? Yeah, it looks like 6 feet. Yes, this is a 6 foot stretch, so assuming it's a 7-inch riser, let me just check first.
It's about 10.
So demolition, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, so no, it's not 6. So, yeah, so it's roughly roughly 10 to 12 times 60. Yeah, it's about 10. Now, this is not been shot by our surveyor yet. So the chances of that, this could actually be less.
Mhm.
It could be, I doubt it's gonna be more than 10.
And what material are you using?
So that's the question. We're gonna probably use the same material that we're using here, and it's Rosetta, it's the local, I think Rosetta Stone. Jeff, we've spoken to about using that stone for
Yeah.
this particular stairwell that's gonna lead up. I think we're just gonna use the same stone for that.
Yeah, is there like a little pathway for bikes to, like if you have a bike?
Yeah, so this area here is all just a path. So, and then, you know, when you walk your bike down the stairs, you would, then this would be the
Nice.
space that there'll be a path here.
Right.
We're still contemplating on what this path material should be, end up being. Because obviously we gotta take things into consideration like snow removal, and we don't wanna throw rocks, you know, when using a snow blower. So it's gonna, you know, we're gonna figure this out. This is in the plans, it's concrete. We talked about doing some bluestone or maybe even using the Rosetta Stone path, cast stones on this particular area. But then we also have a bicycle storage over here. So it'll be nice, easy for people to kind of bring their bicycle right into either this storage or we are also, you know, planning to provide storage at the bottom of 13 Water Street as well. So,
I don't want to get too much in the weeds. but
yeah, I
just-
know.
Sorry.
I was trying to be thorough. Yeah.
Yeah, it's terrific because when we're getting less people into the roadway, they can go on rail trail. Yeah, that's
Yes,
important.
yes.
Good stuff. So I'd like to move that we go ahead and approve an amendment to the easement pending any language variations that our attorney needs to review. And then pending that we get the updated map to include as an attachment to the easement from the Horse of Other Land Trust.
Second, that's a motion.
Any further discussion? Yeah, that was my motion. Any further discussion? Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jesse.
Appreciate it.
So next item on the business agenda is we have the resolution regarding the annexation findings for New Paltz Apartments. So back in June, we had a joint public hearing with the town board, and this project, the New Paltz Apartments, I think it's about 600 total beds that will be constructed just south of the college campus. The property is contiguous with the village, so that's a very important point because in Village Code Section 207-16A, we cannot connect a property and provide them with water and sewer unless it is contiguous. So the developer, you know, that is why they chose, I would imagine, to go before the village planning board for the review of this proposed project. And the proposed project's seeker review took 4 years. And it was completed in December of 2024. I'm very grateful that we have an entrenched and spirited village planning board who took a very hard look at this project. So, you know, our role as a village board is simply to review the petitioner's request to annex the property into the village. Like, we are not doing a review of the project because that has already taken place via the village planning board. And, you know, our role is limited to annexation law. So I move that we go ahead and as a village board, adopt this resolution, greenlighting the annexation for the property to become part of the village. Someone want to second it for discussion?
I'll second that.
Any comments from my colleagues? I would also want to include that, we've been mandated by the governor of New York State to be a pro-housing community, and, we've updated zoning to help us reach some of those goals in terms of making sure that there is a net increase to housing supply in our community. I think that is definitely a piece to the puzzle as far as affordability in communities like ours. I think it also speaks to the nature of the community that we're hoping to continue to enjoy, where we have, density in the core of the community so that we can continue to afford to protect things like open space in the Millbrook Preserve and the Mohawk Preserve and the River to Ridge Trail and our proximity to Minnewaska. This is a very special, magical area. And I think that, having housing near our university, having housing proximate to our commercial corridors is really smart planning. And we're really lucky that, that we have the bones that we have. And I think if we're gonna walk the talk and say that we believe in affordability and we believe in trying to address this national housing crisis. I mean, I listen to financial press on a daily basis, and it's just commonly talked about that there's a serious challenge with housing. And also, our village has an affordable housing. This project will have 15% of its units be affordable. And there's no question about it that the developer is looking to market housing to college students or young professionals who are affiliated with the university. But, there's a lot to be said for filtering theory and the migration theory that when you increase housing supply in a community, it's net additive. You don't have to overthink about the exact type of housing. When you add housing in a community, you can be agnostic about like who it is being marketed to. And we want our university to be successful and to thrive, and making sure that there's housing at a variety of different entry points, both financially and in terms of what's being offered is, what will make this university successful. I mean, it's not like this is an easy topic to address. We've seen it time and again where community members struggle with housing that's built too close to them, or they struggle with, the nature of the schedules of their neighbors. So it's not easy living next to each other, but I also think it's important. I think, as a species, like our only chance is to kind of like do this stuff together. I mean, to me, it like speaks to the same exact feeling as to why we believe in opposing the big, beautiful bill, because it's about people. It's about being neighborly. It's about looking out for as many different people as possible. And that's my soapbox in terms of why I wholeheartedly believe in having additional housing units that have been reviewed, and where the likes of our village planning board have taken a hard look to make sure that it's appropriate and safe, and the affordable housing board will be thoroughly involved in making sure that these 15% of the units are made accessible to those who qualify.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because that was part of what I was gonna say, which is that, for me, the number one reason for the annexation is because the village has an affordable housing law. I know that the town is working on it, but they don't have it yet. If this had been in front of the town planning board, they would not have been subject to an affordable housing law. So, having this be annexed into the village means that they must have at least 15% be affordable housing units, and for that reason alone, I'm for the annexation, just because our neighbors need up more affordable housing desperately, and I will do anything within my power to make that happen.
I think what's also really important to emphasize too is this annexation feels like, someone's playing a game of Monopoly. And it's not at all, because the village of New Paltz is part of the town of New Paltz. So any sort of tax revenue that's generated from this project that is in the A fund, it's, well, it involves the entire town-wide tax levy. There's no like, if it gets annexed into the village, then the town gets less. There was even a discussion about, recreation fees that could be collected as a result of this project. It's like, recreation fees are for projects in the town, whether it's in the town or the village. It also, it's like, we have been talking as a community about the possibility of consolidating the town and the village. And even in our draft study document about like the direction to take that in, like it specifically speaks to recreation fees. And if recreation fees are collected by the village today, and then there was only a town in the future, there wouldn't be some weird situation where only the recreation fees could be invested in the existing, village boundaries. Like it specifically speaks to the recreation fees would be applicable townwide. So there's no game of Monopoly. This is simply about like, how do you move a project forward? The way our law is currently written, you can't have muni water and sewer on a property that's contiguous with the village unless it's annexed in. And that makes tons of sense, because otherwise you would be having access to municipal services and largely not paying for them, because then you wouldn't be a village taxpayer. So it's like, we've had this conversation at this table before with other properties that would like municipal water and sewer that are contiguous with our village. And we're like, sure, you can do that if you annex into the village. That's what our law says. So, this developer read the law, they knew what they wanted, they knew that it makes sense. If you're gonna build a apartment complex, it makes a lot more sense to use municipal water in a collectively owned system and use a collectively owned water treatment plant and wastewater treatment plant that are regulated by the New York State DEC. Like, this is a best practice, having a satellite septic system or using groundwater wells. It's like, those are not best practices. Municipal systems are best practices.
And we would be doing this whether or not there's a mandate to increase housing in our community.
Yeah, and there's also been some question about like, well, there's expenses related to police. If you construct housing, then, there may be more need for, police involvement. Again, that has nothing to do with annexation, whether it's built in the town or the village. It would have exactly the same amount of police involvement. So if someone wants to talk about police involvement, that's a perfectly okay conversation, but it has nothing to do with annexation.
Yep. So,
Any other comments? Or may I call the question?
Sure.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so we got a proposal from,
Tim, would you
Yeah,
just just to clarify too, for the board and more for the public, the annexation was step 2, it still will undergo planning board review for site plan and special use. The seeker review happened, but not the site plan and special.
that's a very important point. It's not like that this project is full steam ahead. This is just piece, as far as the, steps that need to take. And, what our director of planning and zoning just emphasized is that there will also be a very robust site plan review process that 100% volunteer village planning board members will be responsible for. The next item has to do with the proposal that we read from AKRF. They are a firm that could help us conduct a traffic and engineering study pursuant to New York State Vehicle and Traffic Law, authorizing a municipality to reduce our speed to 25 miles an hour. Their proposal included a payment not to exceed $3,500. And they came recommended by our county planning department. Not recommended that we hire them, you know, that's our decision, but recommended in terms of them being a viable consultant. And then also, I know the village manager for Mount Kisco, Ed Bernanke, who's also working with the same firm, and they have an existing good relationship. But and in this business agenda, we've also included the draft law that we would consider and adopt and attach to this study if, you know, all of those things move forward. Like if we agree to the law as a village board after holding our public hearing and are comfortable with the study. But the study is an important piece to actually taking that step and reducing our area or local speed limit from 30 miles an hour to 25. So I'd like to move that we go ahead and engage with AKRF, but then have the agree, you know, this agreement would be subject to, you know, any final review and approval by our village attorney.
Second.
Just further comment, our village attorney has already looked at the draft. He gave me a couple tweaks. I sent them on over to the consultant. They said they seem fine and they're having their legal look at everything. But any other comments, questions? All in favor? Aye. Next item is a proposal from Tectonic. So they would be providing us with some engineering related to the sidewalk project, where we're gonna add linear feet on Prospect Street, Church Street, and Huguenot Street. The Huguenot Street section is New Bluestone. And this is a project that's years in the making, and it's being partially funded by the New York State DOT, which means it's federal money. And it's also being partially funded by, what is it called? Something, I don't know, I'm drawing it, it's one of those silly acronyms. It's like, having to do with, climate change. But it was money from the federal government that Ulster County Transportation Council had access to, and they've extended some of that to us to help us with this project. It'll come to me. So all in favor of accepting this proposal?
Second.
All in favor, or? Aye. Next item is, a proposed addition to our affordable housing law, where we have points for different applicants. So you could be a police officer or work for the school district or having lived here for X amount of time or Y amount of time. So there's a whole point system. So curiously, volunteer firefighters were not on the list. So if you serve as a volunteer firefighter, it seemed like we were all scratching our head why you wouldn't get a point for that type of service that could potentially make your application look stronger. So it's on our agenda to amend that list. I was almost gonna see what you guys thought about making it 2 points instead of 1 point.
Yeah, on that, I think because we keep having discussions here at the table about ways to encourage more people to volunteer. You know, so like I think it goes both ways, like in terms of an affordable housing perspective, and then also in the encouraging people to be volunteer firefighters perspective.
Mhm. What do you guys think?
I think, why not? I don't see
2
any
points
reason
instead of
not
1?
to.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
okay. Someone want to second my motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And then the next item is, it's an award related to, updating some sewer mains. This was a project that our old construction, they were the low bidder. Bid price of just over $1 million. I'd like to move that we go ahead and green light the notice of award for contract BNP 251.
Second.
All in favor? And then Margaret Wade Lewis, so I see Louis was gonna be here to provide us with an update on the MOU, but we're gonna circle back at
Yes.
the upcoming meeting. And the next item is a resolution regarding providing a stipend to volunteer board members.
Mhm.
Do we want to take action tonight?
Yes.
Okay,
We weren't here last time when we talked about Alex, if you get a chance to.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I caught up on it.
Mm-hmm.
And this is something I know definitely we've been discussing at least since 2019. And it came up a few times even when I was like clerking, so I'm very comfortable with it.
right, and this is for volunteers who serve on our planning board, ZBA, Shade Tree, and the,
Shade Tree, Affordable Housing Board and the Historic Preservation.
right,
So it's the 5 boards that are, boards that have authority to take direct action. They're independent boards.
I think the stipend amounts were spot on.
yeah, I think the stipend amounts were good, and I think our initial proposal that's in our current budget includes stipends for just planning board and ZBA.
Planning and ZBA, the other 3 boards were not included, but I did do the chart that would be the maximum amount. It's, the total between the 3 other boards is probably $3,000 roughly.
We haven't budgeted for it, but
You could amend your budget.
It's, it's nominal, but it does show our
Okay.
appreciation.
so we'll just anticipate making sure we get that right.
Mhm.
Okay, all in
Thank you.
favor?
Like,
Aye.
Aye.
I guess I'll second it.
You just seconded it.
Okay.
Yeah,
I moved it, you seconded it, Sana, all in favor, aye. Proposed zoning code amendment docs. Mike, do you wanna chat with us?
Yeah, do you wanna,
Oh, wait,
you wanna do the other stuff and leave that to last?
no, I'm sorry, you're 100% right. I missed 2 things because it was on the next page. So we already did the big beautiful bill, and then we have resolution number 11 on our business agenda. Bill, do you wanna
yeah, it's just a resolution in support of Ulster County Legislature, going to help, pay the cost of, Acton County Clerk, Kelly Brooks' legal expenses. And I think that's a good thing to do.
So I'm gonna second your motion and then all in favor,
Mhm.
right? Okay. All right, so then, so then let's go ahead and consider the proposed zoning code amendments. Mike, are you ready to do that now?
I am.
Okay,
So, for Alice, who wasn't here last meeting, we spoke last week, or last meeting. And I printed updates because there were changes. So the purple ones are the changes we made from what we talked about last meeting, excuse me. So we discussed eliminating the R1 zoning district, and I went through the zoning map, and the majority of those were replaced with R2. That's the Bonnecue View area. There was a small section over off of Henry W. that seemed the most appropriate to make it R3. And then there were a few other properties. So at the very last page of your packet is this list, which now encompasses all the SBLs that would change zoning. You can see all the purple ones are the result of that R1, but it shows you the majority of them would become R2. Interestingly enough, my market was zoned R1, but it fronts North Chestnut, so I made it NBR like the neighboring properties. I'm not quite sure how that slipped through the cracks, but
I think that was like a weird.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's an oddity, things happen. And Woodland Pond is partially in the PB and partially in the R1, and that's, my understanding is because of a conservation easement, which would still be in force. But what I'm proposing is making it parcel based, so the entire parcel is now the PB. They still would be restricted by the conservation easement of developing certain parts of their property. And there's also wetlands and there's a lot of, but, instead of zoning that other half R2, it just made sense to me to make that whole property the PB. So that's the latest update of that. If you look at the schedules, the A and the B, you'll see that the R1 is no longer in. And then the other thing we talked about is we used to have lesser density for senior housing. I had proposed some density bonuses for affordable housing and for green energy, and we decided at the last group that doing a similar density bonus for senior made more sense, so then all residential has the same density requirements, but you can get bonuses if you're gearing it towards senior housing instead of a different density, which in my opinion will make it easier for the building department. It's a one size fits all, but then there's a bonus if you provide certain services. And then, so that's where we stand on that. So going back to this list, we worked our way through up to item number 25, which was the stormwater management. You could see what was 17. We removed that because we thought our design review board was already handling that appropriately, so we didn't need that requirement. And I also did, at the mayor's request, find a much more modern definition of the use motel. The definition that was in the zoning code was a very old, outdated motel definition. So sort of continuing on, and I went ahead and put the 811 and the 813 versions. So if when you're home looking through this, you want to compare back and forth. But any changes we make as we move forward, I'm going to track them in a different color. So the 811 changes will be in the purple. The changes we make tonight, when I make them tomorrow, will be in another color.
Right.
So that way you can kind of keep track of where we stand.
Thank you, that makes sense.
Yeah, I think it's easier doing it that way than trying to do comments because
absolutely.
they get really confusing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So starting with item number 26, we're keeping most of the dimensional standards, which is the Schedule B. The one interesting thing is throughout most of our code, actually throughout the whole code, we didn't have a lot frontage requirement, meaning frontage along a roadway, or we didn't have lot depth in many cases. I went through and proposed, and eventually I'd like to go through this whole thing as one item, but I just want to call that attention. Otherwise, the black are the existing and the red were my recommendations for changes. And then the purple are the changes that, as a result of the changes we made.
Well, what about flag lots?
So a flag lot, you still have to have enough frontage to have a driveway.
Yeah.
So, to me, the minimum frontage should be 20 feet. Along the roadway, because that's the legal amount to have a driveway that a fire truck can access comfortably. So the flag part of the pole part of the flag lot would have to be that minimum. Then you also have a minimum width, which is the width of the main part of the lot. So
This is with with front yards, I know in my neighborhood, it's been an issue because people wanted more backyard in that front yard and it made perfect sense to us.
yeah,
And,
front yards.
to one of my neighbors,
Yeah.
it would have benefited all.
In the case of a flag lot, the pole part, as opposed to the flag, is not normally considered in the setbacks.
Right.
The setback begins where the pole
I wasn't talking about
ends,
flag lots.
yeah, okay,
It's just a property next to
Yeah.
mine, we all would have been happier if it were closer to the
Understood.
road,
yeah,
but.
yeah.
So I think
But,
that's the people going forward, for
yeah.
those coming later, I would like that to be,
and,
possibility for them, because you don't, I mean, front yard isn't necessary, instead of having such a large front yard.
Right.
Really, people don't utilize it that way.
right, and the board can ultimately decide if you wanna have that, you could just say you need minimum, standards for fire access and leave it at that. And we could remove the frontage dimension.
I just measured my driveway, which is a flag lot, and I think it is exactly 20 feet.
Yeah, 20 is kind of the standard. Anything less than that, you really shouldn't have gotten a building permit
No.
because you probably don't have fire access.
Yeah.
Well, if your driveway is 8.5, 10 feet, you need to plow it. So you're gonna have, snow on either side, so that gives more room for an emergency vehicle to enter the property.
So those are just, some things to think about. We fixed the issue, so almost every project in the NBR has required a side yard setback because the side yard setback was 0 to 15 feet. With the intention of keeping the buildings closer together with sort of no more than 30 feet between them. Great idea, but because of the rail trail backs the property, and most of the properties are full distance North Chestnut to the rail trail. Almost every one of those projects is large enough that it requires 2 accesses for fire. And so you physically cannot do it. So what I've done is I have raised the NBR side yard setback to, let me see that I did raise it there. Oh, I neglected to, I did delete it to 0 to 15, but there's a note in the code itself that says, it can be expanded by the planning board without a variance if the need is for fire access.
No, so it wouldn't have to go to the ZBA.
Right, so we still are encouraging them to be as close together.
Right.
So we still will maintain the 0 to 15,
Yeah.
0 to 15, but it made an exception that can be allowed directly by the planning board. Because almost every project has had to go to the
Yeah.
ZBA.
Yeah.
We, in the A1, which is a new schedule, which is accessory structures. We've sort of set the standards of which will only need a building permit, which ones need site plan, which ones need minor site plan, which is a proposal that I haven't talked to you about yet, and which ones need special use. And these are, all these uses, all these structures, not uses, are accessory structures to another type of use. And they're broken down by residential or non-residential. There's some, the residentials are made a little bit easier to achieve without going to planning board review. Because as long as they meet the code, the planning board on an accessory structure, a shed, if they're not going to the zoning board for a variance, and they're just going to the planning board's really not reviewing very much of it. So it's to eliminate some of the costs, some of the duplication of reviews. And I eventually will want to go through these schedules line by line with this board and get your feedback on them, but we've established standards for swimming pools in our code, which we did not have. It's always been addressed in New York State building code, but now it's also in our, because some people don't realize that hot tubs or even those larger inflatable pools are indeed swimming pools. I think it's
Would
anything
not have thought.
without above a certain depth, and I don't want to say a number because I don't remember what it is off my head, but it's something in the neighborhood of 24 inches. Anything deeper than that, you need permits for, and it's because of safety, security. So we put that into our code. We've clarified fences and wall standards. I haven't heard of it happening here yet in New Paltz, but in other municipalities, people have to avoid the 4 foot high fence restriction. Built the berm and then put the fence on top of the berm, and now they have a 6 foot fence when it really is supposed to be a 4 foot. So we've established the height is from the natural ground. We've also clarified what types of fences and retaining walls, when a retaining wall needs to be reviewed by the planning board and when it doesn't need to be. Currently, you have a code section that talks about animals. It involves dogs, cats. It also involves fowl, chickens, and beekeeping. I'm proposing that those 2 items be moved out of that section into zoning code because it really is a part of zoning. Dogs and cats, obviously, traditional, family pets. That's not a portion of zoning, but having chickens, having beekeeping. So there will be a new section called animal husbandry. I know people sometimes sort of flinch at that title, but that's what it's called in zoning. It's animal that is not controlled by New York State Ag and Markets. So I've kept those sections almost verbatim, with a couple minor tweaks here and there. When you look in the actual code, you'll see they're in green. The green color are things I pulled from other sections of code directly into the zoning code. We've added a section for conversion of residential to non-residential, or the opposite, non-residential to residential structures. Just a few things in there that you need to take a look at, to make sure that they fit in the community, in the neighborhood that they're in, that there's not issues. Dumpsters and those, yes.
Just a question, I haven't had a chance to, more intensive uses, can you elaborate a little bit on?
Yeah, so, say it's a residential, and now you're gonna turn it into a doctor's office or something like that. I mean, that may not be the best example, but you're gonna have more traffic, you're gonna have more parking, you're gonna have signage. So if it's, residential to non-residential, but if you have one level of non-residential and it's going to a more intensive usage, meaning more traffic, more hours of operation, potential noise. So there's some standards that have to just be sort of checked in the review process. And there's some criteria that the planning board would review it under. And that's really, it's about a half a page section that just sort of addresses these changes of uses. I mean, we've all seen a residential house that somebody buys and turns it into maybe a real estate office or something like that. So you just want to make sure that it has parking, it has all the, the needs for that business.
Got it, thank you.
Dumpsters, currently, you don't allow residential to use dumpsters unless it's 10 units or more. What I'm proposing, or those infamous drop-off boxes, for either clothing or books or whatever. Proposing that they should be limited to the rear yard or screened side yards. That's just an aesthetic and a little bit of a,
So the dumpsters for more than 10 bedrooms, you're not making a change to that.
no, and those are already required to be screened.
They're already required to be screened and in the backyard, but.
Yeah, but this is, just making, all dumpsters must be either in the side yard or the rear yard. It's not so clear in the commercial. The residential seems to be very clear. The commercial doesn't seem to be as clear. And you find them oftentimes they're front and center because the haulers prefer that because of access.
And then they're not fenced, so you're gonna update the commercial.
Yeah, so basically the section of the code that talks about dumpsters, I'll have to go back through and see exactly how I did the language, but basically said they need to be screened and they can't be in the front yard of the property.
Okay.
Is there a sort of a size, dimension, kind of restriction, recommendation? What do you think? There's 10 cubic yards, 3 cubic yards?
We haven't really done, I sort of, I didn't know if we wanted to, if you wanna go into that level, we could. You sort of leave it to the occupant to decide what they need to accomplish what they need, as long as it's fenced and not front and center. To me, it's serving the purpose, but we could, we could take it further if you prefer.
Just examples, because if you're getting picked up once a month versus twice a month.
True.
Go for larger containers, so.
Yeah. I mean, you don't want it sitting around too long, so you almost might wanna have a maximum.
Yeah, that's
size
what I'm thinking,
Container.
not to exceed size X.
Yeah,
There you
yeah. Let me just jot that note down and do a little more research.
Yeah.
Right, because there should be no dumpsters that are larger than a conventional dumpster size in any residential neighborhood, even if they have more than 10.
Yeah. I would agree on that. The ADUs is currently in your housing code. To me, that's a land use, so proposing that we move that into the zoning code. Home occupations, I'm proposing, pretty much, it's just about a mirror image of what we did in the town of Rochester that's been very successful. There's a type 1, a type 2, and a type 3. They go from sort of least intensive to most intensive. The type 1 is, maybe, let's say example, a lawyer has an office in their house. And, they get a couple clients that come by once in a while and they work out of their house, but you don't even really know it exists there. That's the type 1. The type 2 would be a little bit more, maybe they have an employee. The first one could have no employees other than family members. The second one, maybe you have an employee, and it also is based on size limitations of how much square feet you're using for your home occupation. And then the type 3 is a little more intensive, but it's still truly a home occupation. You're running a business out of your house, but it's the house is still primarily residential. You're just doing, so by classifying it at these 3, the first one would need just a building permit, the second one would need a minor site plan, and the third one would need a site plan review. So it's.
What would be an example of the third one to be?
I'm hesitant to say off the top of my head, but it's something that, if you looked at the criteria, maybe you have a couple more employees, you have a little more square footage,
Like an
Is
event
it
space.
about,
no, not an event space, but
so is it about like,
it's about intensity of usage,
of cars coming and parking?
traffic, volume, that kind of thing. And there's different types of, the home occupations can just have like a small sign that just identifies this is where it is, kind of thing.
Massage therapist.
Yeah,
Massage therapist is what popped into my.
maybe something along those lines, maybe, I don't know, maybe a florist. I mean, I'm trying to think of, yeah.
Cause I know when I was in Brooklyn, I had a massage therapist
Yeah.
office in my apartment.
What I would say is, if you read the 3, one after the other, you'll see how the intensity grows.
Okay.
And how the conditions grow, and I apologize, without looking at it off the top of my head, I'm reluctant to make up examples, yeah. But we'll take a look at it, it's worked so far over there, we've had it in place now since 2008 in Rochester, and
yeah.
it's worked pretty well.
Great.
They just had one that's, that came to them that is doing one of those indoor clay ovens, and they're doing home bread making and selling it from their house, other than the fact the Board of Health regulations and things. You know, they're gonna sell it from their porch, so because they're gonna have more clientele coming and going, but it's still their house, they're still living there, and they're doing that outdoor, the old sort of clay oven thing in the backyard. So it's not like, you know, it fit the home occupation,
Mhm.
but it was a type 3 home occupation
It's
because
more
of the
people
more
living at home.
intensive use.
Yeah.
Yeah, so maybe that's an example right
No, yeah,
there.
that is, I just, the one that came to my mind was
Yeah.
the one I've done, that's all.
The next is I've really completely redone your sign code, but yet kept it very similar. When you look at it, you will see, and it's somewhat copied after the way the city of Kingston did theirs when they did their code update. The key is there's photo examples, there's definitions beyond definitions of types of signs. A few things to think about, and we don't need to answer it right now, is like the sandwich board signs. Do we want to prohibit them entirely from the town? Do we want, or excuse me, village? Do we want to just say they can't block the sidewalk? But, you know, for example, somebody like the Little Loaf Bakery, if they wanted to put one on the grass in front of their property,
That's not.
do we really care? You're not blocking, but we see other places where people put them out in front of their business and now they're blocking the sidewalk. So kind of the options are
They're also
whether,
like temporary too.
yeah, and that's why they're a tricky type of sign because
Yeah, cause I
they
can.
come and
think of
go.
Businesses that use them in town.
Well, if you walk down Main Street, you'll see a number of them on, and right now they're not supposed to be there.
What about, can't block the sidewalk and
Yeah.
have to be removed when the business is closed?
And that's perfectly fine.
I like
So
that.
I'm looking for feedback from you guys, and you may wanna take a good hard look at the signs. I put in a lot of limitations of size, sign face. Copying, one thing I did do, and this has been a pet peeve of mine, that your code had that I think is totally wrong, no offense. It includes, if it's a two-sided, two-faced sign, it includes the square footage of each side independently.
That's harsh,
To
yeah.
me, the sign is the
Yeah, I
impact,
agree.
the words on it, whether it's a blank back sign or if it's ability to be seen from both sides, if you got the same or
Yeah.
different messages
I'm
on
with
each
you.
side, who cares?
Yeah.
That's how I feel.
Same.
So I've changed that because currently each side counts separately, makes no
Yeah,
sense.
it really.
Another thing, I've made it so a number of sign permits go just to the building department, the building inspector can approve them, simple things. Anything that is a ground sign or a pole sign would go to the planning board, would create a new set of review for the planning board. They might review a sign independent of a site plan. Now, if the signage is part of the site plan or special use, obviously they'll review it.
Right.
But they may get just, and I think the town currently has somewhat similar to that right now in that, because I have seen sign permits go just to the town planning board. So the bigger impact signs,
Yeah, I used to start on it.
yeah. Really went back and looked at the comprehensive plan and the impacts of signs. It talked a lot about signs, included a lot of the language from the comp plan directly into the code of why we care about signs. It's a lengthy section that I can't do, we could do a whole meeting just on signs.
Yeah.
So, but take a look, you know. What we're kind of doing, Alex, to bring you up to speed on this is, I'm sort of doing the 10-mile view overview with this little document. What I'd like to do is maybe one or two more meetings of that. Meanwhile, I'm gonna get this to the planning board, let them start reviewing it, bring their comments back to you. Hopefully by October or so, we're ready to get a public hearing on this, get it to the county planning board, so.
Yeah, no, this is so helpful because, it's like, well, with the meeting I missed, I felt like
Okay,
it's like a take-home version of you.
exactly,
Yeah.
thank you. Thank you. I wrote a new section for off-street parking and loading, which maintains most of the current code. But, what we did add in the parking is two things that we did not have in the current code. One is the ADA parking requirements. The federal chart is now included in the code, so the planning board can just look at it. Okay, there's this many parking spaces, you need this many ADA spaces. That's federal requirements. It existed now, but now it's in our code. The second thing is, and this is a big thing the county is pushing, is EV charging stations. Tim and I met and talked, and so we want to require them in places where people will be for periods of time. You know, every business parking lot does not need EV charging stations. If you're going to be there for 10 minutes, it's not going to do you any good. But places like larger residential, there should be EV there. Places like restaurant, grocery stores, maybe, you know, larger parking areas, things like that. So we put some, that's the next two sections, 38 and 39, what we established requirements of where they should be. Also in there required with transportation, bike racks in certain projects, or bike in residential bike storage areas, not outdoor necessarily, but indoor.
That would be better.
Yeah.
Recently had a terrible thing happen.
I've added a brand new article that deals just with site plan. It was included previously. I haven't changed all that much in the language, but it was sort of buried in another section. A lot of what I've done is reorganize the order to make it flow better. If something is in the Ulster County core habitat area, which is easily identified through the Ulster County Parcel Viewer, I know you're a big fan of that. There's just some additional standards, you know, the planning board has to at least be aware of it, look at it, consider it. You know, beyond that, what it means or doesn't mean depends on the outcome of the results, but photo simulation back in the day was very difficult. These days, it's very easy to take an online Google Earth picture of your property and insert photo simulation. I didn't make it mandatory though. I let the planning board decide when and when not they need it or want it. But I allowed that the planning board may make it required. So on the bigger project, they want to see what something's going to look like. Because they don't ask for renderings on every single project, and nor should they.
That's a great addition, because of the technology.
Yeah, the technology it's so
Really get a
simple.
feel for what the neighborhood is,
Yeah.
and how consecutive buildings are.
And it's great for the planning board, it's great for the public. You know, the public can look at it and at least have a
Really helps.
fair idea.
Most people are used to looking at sites.
We just had a great example, the senior housing project, wanted to change a fence to a different fence. And, one of the planning board members asked for some photo simulation. Boom, they came in the next meeting with it and everybody looked and was like, great. But they could see what it was gonna look like.
Yeah.
The fee schedule currently for amendments to approved site plans says if you do 50% or less, you pay 25% of your original fee. If you do greater than 50%, you pay 50% of your original fee. In some of these projects, their fees are tens of thousands of dollars for the original site plan and special use. So what I'm proposing is, and this is actually in your code, I'm not quite sure why or how it ended up in the code. Many times the amendments are accessory, like we just had an example where they want the fence, they wanted to put in a different type of fence. and wanted to move their dumpster area. If I had to charge them 25% of their original fees, it would have been astronomical, so we, we charged them accessory structure fees, which is what they were amending. So this would remove it from the code and allow Alex and I to set the fee schedule just like we do on every other application. This is a biggie, and it's a brand new thought. It's kind of a combination. It's creating a minor site plan. Now, what that is there'll be some very strict criteria in the code of what can be a minor site plan. There'll be certain uses. It also, though, can't involve, if it involves, referral to the county, if it involves a use variance, I can't remember the other criteria. What this will do is this will allow the building department, the building inspector to review it. Now, as a concession, you know, we have many residential projects that go to the planning board. We get the public comment, there's no public comment, there's one public comment. They go through, you know, 3 or 4 meetings. There's the cost of the application fee, there's the cost of the public hearing notice. It's costly. So what I'm proposing is we'll let the building department deal with it. However, every meeting of the planning board, the building inspector will put together a list of all the projects that he has received since the last planning board meeting that qualify. He'll submit them all to the planning board. The planning board can take one, you know, the applicant doesn't have to be there to present.
Right.
It's just, here's the applications, here's the information. The planning board will review it. If they have any comments, make them back to the building inspector. So it keeps the planning board involved, but it saves time, it saves money.
Makes sense.
Other communities use similar, this is a hybrid. I mean, others send it straight to the building department. I like this idea of we're still calling it a site plan approval, but it's a minor site plan where ultimately the building inspector is signing off on it in consultation with the planning board.
Right. Is that only the building department signature or the chair?
It'll just be the building inspector's signature.
No signature by chair.
No, because it'll be referred to them and they'll choose to send back comments or not.
Okay. Where do ADUs fit into this?
ADUs right now and they will continue, they don't even go to the planning board. They're strictly building department. They will remain that way. They will.
What if they're detached?
Oh, well, okay, so there we will have to, I'll have to go through and figure out which ADUs go then.
Yeah, I think detached has to.
Okay. So, but what this will do is things that go to the planning board for site plan that are residential use, that are accessory structures. It's removing some of the, you know, there've been some nights where the planning board will have 12 applications on an agenda.
Right.
This will remove maybe 2 or 3 or 4 of those. Let them focus on the bigger projects, but they still get to make comments back to the building inspector. It's still looked at by the volunteer board.
Yeah.
And, you know, you can take a look at the,
Yeah, I definitely want to preserve that the planning board gets a look.
yeah.
Agreed.
Oh, and that's the other thing. They have to be a type 2 action under seeker. If they're an unlisted
Yeah.
or if they meet the criteria to be classified as an unlisted or type 1 action, they still go to the planning board for site
That
plan.
makes sense.
So this is the type 2 actions, which quite a few of our applications are. I mean, we probably, it's a guess, I bet at least 2/3, maybe.
Much?
Yeah, half for sure, maybe 2/3 of our applications are actually type 2 actions. Currently, under the village code, there's no, it's silent. Under the state code, planning boards can approve an extension beyond the 1 year of approval. This will codify allowing the planning board to offer an extension. We are doing it right now because our code is silent on it, doesn't say you can, doesn't say you can't, but the state code says you can. So that's why we've been doing it. This will put it in our code. We will create a new section just for special use review, just like we did for site plan. Right now, there's a section in your code, and I don't believe it's legal. It allows the planning board to initiate violation notices for special use permits projects. Nowhere am I aware of that the planning board has any enforcement ability. So, we're moving that from the code. If it ever was, I don't know if it's ever been done, but if it ever was, you probably would be challenged and found not legal. Clarifying that all special uses also require site plan reviews. It's standard in the industry that a special use needs a site plan review. Now the code will say it. The same thing with the site plan extension. They can also now, same thing for special use. We've set additional standards for particular uses. Now, currently, we do adult use cannabis related businesses as the business not listed elsewhere in the code. I'm proposing that we actually have a set of standards to look at. Take a look, see what you think. It involves following the state code for distance from other properties, also hours of operation. You know, if you think we don't need it, I'm okay with it. I modeled it somewhat after the town of Lloyd's code when I wrote the one for town of Rochester. They don't have any in operation yet. They had one that started the process and then didn't get the state licensing, so didn't happen. Animal boarding is something. Yeah.
I mean, historically, we've not been overly particular about that because it's retail. I think what people regularly get wrong about retail dispensaries is like, there's not a whole lot of consumption going on.
It's very.
Well, there's three,
It's not like.
yeah, there's three types. So there's the sales, there's the lounge, which allows the consumption on premises. And the third type is the micro business,
Yeah.
which is the one that was at 3 Water Street.
I thought you were just talking
Yeah.
about the retail.
I'm talking about all three,
Well, I think
adult use cannabis related businesses, so there'd be different.
the middle one requires some sort of review.
Right.
I think the first one is just retail.
Like they're different than any other retail. Yeah, I think we've, if it wasn't this board, it was
Yeah.
years ago, one of the past resolutions.
Okay.
Kind of memorializing that spirit.
Well, why don't
So
you take a
closer
look
with
at,
that.
yeah, take a look at
Look back.
what I proposed,
Yeah.
which is relatively short. And see if you,
And
you
we've
know,
also now lives with a dispensary, like I feel like when people complain about the fact that marijuana's been legalized, it's never because there's consumption going on at the dispensary.
right,
Yeah, it's like, I
Understood.
smell it all throughout the village.
You smell it everywhere else except.
Yeah, exactly.
Being sold.
So like nothing's really changed.
well, we could just deal with them the same as all other retail establishments. You know, the only reason it's like, you know, liquor stores, there's another set of state criteria.
Sure.
And the same with that,
Same
yeah,
with the county.
yeah,
Generally, in liquor stores,
Yeah.
people aren't drinking.
agreed,
That's different than a, pub.
yeah. Well, again, you know, I mean, if you want either later or at the next meeting, we can dig into sections of the code and really, and I'm hoping we do that. And we go through it and sort of really wordsmith it, and you tell me, but, you know, we're still sort of in the overview. Animal boarding is not something that was addressed at all. This would address not necessarily like veterinary or something like that, like animal hospital. This would be if somebody had a kennel, where they were, boarding a certain number of dogs or cats. It involves like, noise situations that they can't be left outdoors after certain hours because then you run into the potential of noise situation. You currently have a title called Essential Services. I'm proposing we change that term to Emergency Services, which deals with, now in New Paltz, well, no, the rescue is not, it's community-based, it's not government-based.
Right.
So, but say you had a for-profit ambulance service want to move into New Paltz. I mean, I'm just an example. So this way, emergency services or police, fire, those types of things. Essential services are things like electricity, water, sewer, broadband, those things. So,
You're changing, some will be classified as emergency, some as.
yeah, exactly. Essential services are a must in every situation. The emergency services and your definition was basically defining emergency services as essential services.
Right.
So now what I've done is
Separated it.
they were combining them into one definition. I've separated the two out into two different types of definitions. Accessory uses, for hotels. Things like what you don't want is your hotel, especially in a village situation, to suddenly become this big restaurant, this big health spa. So it can only be, your accessory uses can only be a certain percentage of the gross floor area. I don't think it's a huge issue that we're gonna see a lot of, but it just, we have the current hotel, which kind of did take that into consideration and made some changes. They were gonna do a public restaurant that they decided not to do.
Right.
Develop new standards for multifamily housing units. It's very similar to what you have currently, but it's just standards for, things like the bicycle storage, things like the parking and outdoor display and sales, something that's not addressed in most zoning codes, can be a larger issue, maybe not quite so much in the village, but definitely something. Outdoor storage. If you have a business that requires a lot of outdoor storage of product or materials, so set standards for those, they would be reviewed at the same time as the site plan. They would, demarcate an area, this is where we're gonna store, say it's a building supply kind of thing. We need to store lumber outside. Well, this is where you're gonna store it, this is how it's, because otherwise, I mean, we're not gonna get a Lowe's or a big box store in the village, I don't think, but you notice that suddenly a lot of those parking spaces become storage. This is gonna prevent that from happening. Short-term transient rentals, moving from the housing code into the zoning code, same thing. Your code is silent on solar energy. I've written a fairly large, section on solar energy. Emphasizing it in residential uses when possible and in commercial, but, vehicle and equipment sales, service and repair, your code currently has like auto dealership, repair shop, kind of combine them into, they're two different categories. You'll have vehicle and equipment sales and you'll have service and repair, but, wireless telecommunications facilities, have a section of the code that is court tested because it was, challenged and we won. It gives the planning board all the review power that the Federal Telecommunications Act allows them to have on a local level. And also clarifies what you don't have control over. There's part that the federal government has said, sorry, you can't consider these things on a local level. But it clarifies them into 4 types, whether it's co-location on an existing tower. I'm not aware that we have any towers in the village right now at all. I could see potentially, you know, and if one comes, it may more than likely go on the college campus, in which case we don't have any control over it. But there are other properties in, and much of this code is in the forward thinking that at some point this might be merging with the town code. I can tell you this telecommunications section is pretty bulletproof.
Oh, that's awesome, especially because people never think to look at anything federal in
Right.
terms, you know,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, the developers, when they come in, will quote chapter and verse and tell you what you can't do. And this code says, no, you're wrong. We can do X, Y, and Z. There are things you're allowed to do. There's much, like one of the things you cannot consider on a local board is people talk about the EMF frequency and the impacts on human health. The federal government says you cannot consider that. They have to certify that they meet the federal standards. But as long as they meet the federal standards, you can't go above and beyond those. You just, that's the end of the story. But this allows you to say to them, you need to certify that you meet federal standards. So,
Hey, Mike?
Yeah.
Just, solar energy, reminding me, do we have anything in our code about ground source energy applications?
ground source.
Like, you know, you're drilling down, drilling around your house.
Yes, you talk about like
Geothermal.
geo.
Right, geo.
Yeah, we don't have anything about geothermal. I mean, you definitely have a ban on any sort of drilling for hydrofracking and those kind of things and capture of natural gases. Geothermal is not really addressed at all in our code, but it's somewhat addressed under state building code. We do have one house that was proposed that is in process of being built. I don't know the stage of it, but that's going totally off the grid and is doing geothermal heating and cooling.
And my neighborhood is.
Yeah.
Land.
But I believe those are all addressed under state building code.
Yeah.
It's not something that we would need to get involved in, really.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Sure. Currently, your code does what many codes do, is it commingles non-conforming uses and structures, the 2 very different things. You could have a non-conforming structure and a conforming use.
Right.
You could have a non-conforming use and a conforming structure. Making them, so I've proposed splitting them to reflect that. Then the Schedule A, if you look, all the red uses are new uses that are not in the current code. The blue are ones that you currently have that I'm proposing you remove, like boat rental. I don't think we're really ever gonna get a boat rental on the Wallkill, and maybe, you know, maybe kayak or something, but that could be under the there's a recreational usage type thing.
Because New Paltz Sky does do it in.
Yeah.
Park, so.
Um,
We have it happen.
yeah, and then some things I'm proposing is like, low impact healthcare, low impact retail establishment, low impact service establishment. Those are based on square footage of your structure or your use. If you're a small retail store, why are we putting you through the same review that we're putting a large retail store through? So, but take a look at that. I've also combined, like, you used to have, for example, bookstore, clothing store. Like, why? It's all retail. So we just have retail establishment. We just have,
Cannabis.
yeah.
Yeah, we gotta. throw
Well,
it.
you can include cannabis in there if you want. I mean, yeah.
I'm
So-
right, because it doesn't.
Well, so I had,
What about the liquor store, wine store, is that in there? You know, subject. to
Yeah, it-
State regulation.
it's not, yeah, so we have adult use cannabis retail, dispensary, and then consumption, so. Based on what I'm hearing you say is the retail dispensary would be the same as the other retail,
Yeah.
but you leave the consumption separate, just like you leave a bar separate.
Yeah.
Yeah, the consumption should be its own thing.
And they're
the
both
bar
still,
have-
and the consumption and the retail are both still subject to SLA,
Right,
Just like bar and tavern is.
Right.
Yeah,
or the SLA equivalent.
and we could leave the definition and just say, for zoning review purposes, this is reviewed under general retail. I could certainly, go through that. A couple things else that I talked about is if anybody is disturbing 1 acre or greater, it automatically is a special use, doesn't matter what you're doing, if you're disturbing that much land. Probably unlikely it will happen in the village, but you'll see too, some places I'm proposing that things just be reviewed as a, building permit instead of a site plan. Other things where there's currently special use, so where I'm proposing them to be site plan. So we can take a look through that. I think maybe at the next meeting, we might want to dig into going through these schedules. So the A1 is a brand new schedule. I did go back through though, the black uses are currently in the code, but they're not on the, originally this whole schedule was all red. And I was like, well, many of these already are addressed in the code. But like right now, you need to go, like if you're adding a porch or a patio to your house, you gotta go to the planning board for site plan. I sort of say why.
Yeah,
Those are examples of what should be a minor site plan.
yeah.
And then the Schedule B is the minimum lot width and, or I've added the minimum lot width and depth. And most of it remains existing, for the most part. So that's where we are. So out of this discussion tonight, I'll go through cannabis. And is there anything else that, you know, I guess at the next, what I'd like to do is come back for your 2 September meetings where we can dig more into the code. I can walk you through the code, and I would ask that maybe rather than me printing out 4 copies, 5 copies, if you can all just, I can either put it up on the screen
Put it up on the screen.
and we
don't
can
print
just
out
scroll
everything.
through it and I'll just
Don't
give you,
waste paper.
yeah,
And,
yeah. And it's available on through the, you know, you can click on the link and open it up.
anybody can do
I
it.
know,
if they
it's
have-
like so small on my phone though, but, yeah.
Understood.
Put it up there.
Yeah, I'll put it up on the screen next meeting.
Yeah.
So
I'll bring it up.
that's what I'm proposing at the next meeting. We go through those schedules, start going through the code. And between the 2 meetings in September, I appreciate that you're giving me about 20 minutes to a half an hour at each meeting to just sort of get this under our belt. Yeah, probably more.
It's
Yeah,
more. This is such a big help though, thank you.
Yeah,
yeah.
like you did.
Thank you.
We're grateful.
Yeah, I'll dig more into the signs, just because I also just remember so many different things that have come up about signs that don't even, that I never even was able to wrap my head around.
Yeah.
Like, some environmental asks of like some organizations in the community
Okay.
have like related to signs, and I was like,
Okay,
I can't even find answers to your question,
yeah,
so
yeah.
I'll dig.
Well, temporary signs, and the one thing to remember about signs is, and the Supreme Court came back on this, you can control content. You
Yeah.
cannot control what somebody puts on their sign. But you can control sign types, like temporary signs. You can say they can only be up for a certain duration of time. Tough to enforce, but you can do that. There's, you know, like some communities have a whole set of rules about political signs, totally illegal. You
Yeah.
can't do it.
That's so.
And treat them the same as any other temporary sign. You can say all temporary signs can only be up for 30 days. But you can't say political signs can be up 30 days and your sign advertising your business. That's on the side of the road can be up indefinitely. You can't do that. So they gotta all be the same.
Mhm.
So. Any thoughts or questions? And thank you again for all your time and attention.
Thank you.
And if you run into any questions between now and the next meeting, feel free to, shoot me an email or stop by the office and
Will do.
happy to explain.
Happy to have you.
Yeah, thank you.
So the next item, Bill, I'm gonna let you, give us a
The kind of-
liaison update and fill in the guidelines.
Yeah, this is sort of an advisory.
We're not gonna do the idea.
Didn't we already mention that it's taking place?
Well,
It's up that we're just communicating with the.
no, that's
No,
not.
you didn't,
Put it on
I don't
the,
think you talked about it.
no,
Okay, we
it's
didn't.
not, no, and I had asked to put it on the agenda so we could discuss how the village wants to respond. Because I know how we all feel about IDA pilots.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I don't know that the IDA cares about how we feel.
Heard. However, if the village and the town and the school district were to have reps, and I'm happy to, as the school district liaison, I'm happy to discuss with them. But if we were all to say like this, whatever we wanna individually say, I think it's possible, and then at least we could be on record as having said something and not just letting it go.
Yeah, I fully encourage if you wanna engage the school district and the town board and.
Well, but I wanna talk about us, we have to decide how we wanna handle it before I go to them, right? So,
Sure, so what are you proposing?
well, we have always opposed such things because it puts a burden on our taxpayers unduly. Right? They're gonna be there, they're gonna be for whatever the time period is, for whatever the rate that they're getting is. They'll still be using services.
Mhm.
So you proposing statements to be made at the meeting on the third?
Yeah, that we oppose,
As public comment from the village board.
yeah,
Okay. Write something up and.
yeah. I'm saying that I think that.
Well, do we know what the proposed assessed value is for the project, and is it a fair assessed value? Because what I've struggled with historically is sometimes developers ask for a tax abatement and push
Right.
for an unfair appraised value.
Right.
I
I'm
was
sorry,
just
not
looking
appraised,
for
not
that.
appraised, assessed.
I didn't see it either. I looked at it
I
and
looked
I
at
didn't
it
see
too,
it.
and I didn't see a cost benefit analysis.
Right, I didn't see any of it.
So that's, I guess, and I spoke with Hillary this morning, that's going to be presented.
At the meeting, that's what my understanding is, and that's why I wanted to be at the meeting, or somebody, and for us to be able to
Right.
respond to whatever they end up proposing. And not having them vote on it without all the taxing agencies that they're deciding for.
Right,
Having no
everybody
say in
has to have a chance to actually see it too.
Exactly.
Are you able to go? Because it's like in the middle of the afternoon, just as all their mornings are.
It's 4:30.
Yeah,
4:30 here.
Yeah.
PM here, a week from Friday.
yeah. So that's the 5th, right?
Yeah,
And I could do it,
And that's just the public hearing.
Right.
They're not voting on it.
right, but that's what we
Traditionally,
get the
there's one or two
information.
board members here, correct?
Right, but that's what we get the information. I felt as though, considering our response generally to them.
Yeah.
At least we could, at the very least, have stated publicly our opposition, our, you know what I mean, our thoughts, depending on what they're suggesting. Which we won't find out until.
Yeah, I think we need this data before we can.
Exactly, that's right, but I wanted to discuss beforehand how we wanna handle it.
The data is available on the website, the applications there, and on page 19, if you're looking on your laptop, or page 20, if you're looking at your phone. It breaks down all the different categories. I think there's like 5 or 6 of them. Don't ask me to quote.
Yeah, but I didn't, but they too, as you said, we've all looked at it and we haven't seen any specifics
That's
yet,
right, yeah.
so.
Well, it's pretty specific, it's just
No, it's,
Am I going, oh, sorry.
so are we saying that I will attend and report back and then we'll decide how we want to move?
I'll direct a statement and share it with us so we can take a look at it.
Well, it's hard. Okay, but also we want to respond once we know all the specifics that they will be presenting at that meeting. So this would just be like the preliminary,
Yeah.
and then we can respond once we see the
That
specifics.
sounds like.
You see what I'm saying? Like, I wasn't thinking of necessarily giving a whole thing then, because we don't know the specifics yet. Once they've presented those at the meeting, then we can respond to that.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying? But if you guys would like me to come up with something, well, I don't know. Tim, what do you think?
I'm just curious what that would look like, because
Yeah,
I've
so,
approached the IDA countless
I know
times.
you and I have gone to meetings of theirs and they don't, yeah, they're like, oh, well, our attorney will do the next meeting, come to the next meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What do you think?
the more info we get, the
The better,
better,
right?
yeah.
Okay, so I can go, say that I'm there representing the interests of the village and that we intend to have a look at what the proposal is and would like to be able to respond to it.
Or I'll even ask them, like, how should we anticipate being involved?
Yeah.
Because they have
Yeah.
historically said that they
Right.
do want to include the
Right.
local taxing authority. So what does that look like?
Yeah, good.
Yeah, that's perfect
Yeah.
framing,
So
thank you.
how do they anticipate us being involved?
Mhm. Thank you for being on top of that, Sky.
Yeah, because they do these things that affect our taxpayers that we represent.
Mhm.
And we get upset after the fact when it's done. No, we gotta be involved.
Yeah,
We've gotta represent our constituents and because, again, we're losing the tax money. So then the burden gets put on people who cannot afford it at all. You know, they're gonna be, a lot of these things, they get these breaks, and then they're still using all of our essential services or emergency services, depending on which way you want to look at it. They're using, you know, all of our services, depending on what it is in different ways. I mean, this is gonna be an apartment complex. They're gonna be kids who are going to the school district. They're gonna be, you know what I mean? Like, why do they get a tax break on that? I don't understand. You know, they're gonna need police and fire, they're gonna need roads, they're gonna need all the things that we work on. And that we collectively pay for, why shouldn't they? I don't understand. So unless there's an express benefit, like we gave the municipal pilot we gave for senior affordable housing, because that is something we desperately need, and that's a benefit to our constituents.
yeah.
Yeah, right now it's a 15-year proposal.
Hmm.
Oh,
That's great, right?
yeah.
Right? I mean, it's crazy.
So why are they eligible for 15 and not 10?
I don't know.
Like, that seems crazy to me.
Good
Well, I
question.
think that's a part of the question, like,
Yeah,
how are we involved in understanding how this is supposed to work?
yeah. And since we're being so greatly impacted, we need to be involved, and how can we best be involved with them? That's what I.
Sounds like
wanted
a
to
good plan.
Because I'm not down with them continuing to impact our community without us speaking up.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you.
All right, so you wanna,
Planning board.
do the PV update?
Yeah, just, the planning board's come up with a proposal that, I think they're in favor of, in terms of, guidelines for public comment. It's a few paragraphs long, and essentially it's, responding to a need to help move those meetings along where people are coming and speaking for 5 and 10 minutes, and that's a bit of a drain on our volunteer, planning board. So it's in the file, for your review. They put a 4-minute, cap on comments. I thought that was maybe, could be lessened to 3 minutes. But, and also there was comments about repetitive, points brought up, same thing over and over again. And, the chair emailed me today, said, well, that depends on the situation, whether or not, how they would view as a repetitive comment. So it'd be up to the chair's discretion to say, well, we've talked about this in this meeting, but would allow for repetitive comment if it was, something that preceded that particular meeting.
So this is just a heads up because it's not our purview.
That's correct. It's their policy.
Yeah,
So it's a policy statement.
yeah, I'm glad we saw what it is.
Yeah, I think we've had something like this
Useful.
at one point, and I think, you know, time limit's a good thing as there are certain, topics that come up before any meeting.
Yeah, and that makes it easier for our volunteers to do their job when they have clear guidelines, so that's great.
Okay, nothing to update regarding CBA, and I would like to move bills and claims.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Did we do the 1963?
Oh, sorry, I'm very
Yeah.
good. Good catch.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Where the heck is it on this piece of paper?
It's,
Oh, it goes back in the section,
Yeah, yeah, I'd like to move,
so we go back and. Open the meeting back up, because we find.
yeah, we're still open,
We just voted to
it
adjourn.
doesn't matter.
Okay.
So we have a resolution to amend the covenant from 1963, so it conforms with the current R3 zoning for the 3 properties that we included in R3 zoning in the Green Acres development. We have this draft resolution that's been reviewed by our attorney. I move that we adopt it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thanks for that catch.
Yeah.
Rob.
It's funny because I had it pulled up on my phone
This is
too.
a long.